and that will happen again. So I would like to find a way that our states can have better control.
I'm sorry, I forgot to start the video. Would you start over?
Oh boy,
I'm very
you want me
sorry.
to remember that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I like to talk, but let's not, don't keep me
I
going all night.
apologize.
No, so what I would like to say is I would like to be able to have the border have more control in the states. So I'd like to see some laws be put into place to when this happens again, if the Democratic Party ever gets control of our country again, that we have more control at the states, controlling our borders and making sure that when these happens that we have control. So borders are a big topic for our communities. The other is going to be the economy and housing. The economy and housing goes together. Right now, our economy is crazy. That is because we are spending money and we're making money at a federal level. That's going to change your economy every time. That's why when Trump was in office, it changed because he ran it as a business. As a businessman, you know, making money and creating spending is going to cost you a lot more money. Not to mention bringing up cost on your hourly wages brings up that economy because we can't afford to be paying people this kind of money because all that does is affect us as individuals. So we need to have control of that. The housing goes the same. So once you have housing happening where the interest rates go up, housing market usually drops down. But unfortunately this time, and I've talked about it a few times, is it didn't happen that way. So in 2000, I was in the real estate business for a while. 2016, it was supposed to be the wave. Every 10 years it goes up and it comes down, goes up and comes down. Interest rates go up, housing prices go down, housing prices go up, the interest rates are down. So, but what happened in 2016, that didn't happen because we had a businessman that went in. So that changed our whole dynamic in our housing because the prices kept going higher and higher to the point where we were selling homes outrageous prices. A lot of different places, and even in these communities, some of the prices of home were just through the roof. But that was also because we had a 2.5 interest rate on some places. So now we have an interest rate that's up high, but the people aren't bringing their housing prices down. So that's affecting this dynamic of where we can't afford to buy houses. So I'm also hoping that once we get into our economy back into place, we can get those housings back. Also on top of it, I would like to see that we have new laws in place for people that actually own and rent homes instead of us using, they go out for Airbnb. They need to have better rights so that they can protect their homes so that squatters don't come in. I'd like to see that change here. The last is obviously water. We need to protect our water, keep it safe, and keep it into where we shouldn't be transferring that water out. We also need to find different resources to be able to protect our water.
Hildy?
Okay. Number one, water. And we are lucky to have a delegation that serves us right now who has worked together to make sure that our water is protected here in rural Arizona. We all know that everyone's looking for water and they want to put the straw in our drink. So we have to make sure we have people who totally understand the issue and who understand how to work together to make sure that that doesn't happen. What happened this year, I'm not sure if you're all aware of it, but this delegation, Sonny Borelli is here, they got 4,500 acre feet of water for La Paz. That is your water to do what you want out of the Harquahala. It is unprecedented. No other county has it. You could use it. You could transfer it in La Paz, Maricopa, Pima, Pinal, but it's yours. And that's what teamwork does down at the Senate. That's what experience does. The other thing, election integrity. Sonny, again, Senator Sonny Borelli has worked hard on that. But here's the deal. We have a Democrat governor. And as long as we have a Democrat governor, it's not going to happen. But what experience gets you is a different way around it. Not just we pass this law, it goes to the governor, she vetoes it, we know what she's going to do. But they have found a way to work around it by going on the ballot, and we're going to have something on the ballot this year about it. And the other one is the border, of course, and they did the same thing with the border. Everything they passed, the governor vetoed, so they went in a roundabout route and put it on the ballot, and you will be voting on that. And that is what teamwork does. You need people with experience to know how to work together, how to work with Democrats, how to work with people. There's so many representatives, senators, you know, there are 30 of us. Most of them are from Maricopa County. So the rural senators have to stick together to do what's right. And those are the three issues.
Ashley?
let's face it, number one is government interference and control. Look at our state, look at our country, look at everything that's happening. We're being taxed, we're not free, we've got people coming onto our properties that shouldn't be there or are bullying individuals, the people, the communities, and the fact is, I'm tired of high taxes. I'm tired of sitting there and looking at a paycheck and wondering why 33% of my paycheck is gone. I mean, everybody has to feel it, right? Everyone has to feel the fact that the government intervened and now we have inflation through the roof. And so I truly, genuinely believe we need to start taking those laws, and instead of sitting there and giving you new laws, what we need to do is look at the old laws and either change them or remove some of them. Because let's face it, you guys are genuinely in this little box that we don't need to be in because we're in the United States of America. Let's face it. Number two is water. We talk about the legislation, and they did do a good job as far as giving you that water, but also look at Cibola. Cibola lost 2,033 acre feet of water because of an issue as far as a big, large developer and a entity that's not even countrywide. They're in the world somewhere, and that you see none of that money or none of that income coming back to you or your cities. So that is a huge issue. We got to remember that you guys are the ones that are suffering, and I'm suffering. I work 2 jobs just to be able to go off and make sure that my kids have a good life, and you know what, I'm still here tonight, I'm still pushing through, and the reason for that is because I don't think politicians need to have relationships. What they need to have is principles. We need to have principles. So number 3 is also, we want to talk about border, and I know everybody talks about border, but so I'm not going to go into the border. What I'm going to go into is specifically for La Paz County is the drug issue. You guys we have a massive drug issue in La Paz County. I'm a La Paz deputy county attorney. I've just got the opportunity to take over the drug unit to be able to revamp, make sure that we're hand in hand with law enforcement to take those people out, take those drugs out that are coming across our I-10 and take them out. We need to make sure that we are doing what we can to keep our citizens safe, and that's what I plan to do, whether it be here, whether it be for the state of Arizona, the people, or at the legislature. Thank you.
Both parties have accused each other of election fraud throughout the years. Has any legislation been passed to address free and fair elections? What bills will you introduce or enforce to prevent election fraud? And would you endorse paper ballots hand counted, why or why not? And how will we be assured that if we vote for you, our vote will be counted for you? Hildy?
Okay. I'm a supervisor. I'm the county supervisor. I'm the chairman of the board in the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. And we talk about this all the time. Personally, I believe that our elections department does a very good job. You know, there's always going to be a little bit of mistakes and things that happen. I don't believe it's intentional, but people are people and machines are machines. I mean, obviously. But I'm the only one up here who's actually voted for a hand ballot count. It came before us. Sonny Borelli came up to us, to Mojave County, and he made the case with Wendy Rogers to why it's important to hand count the ballots. And he had all the information about the machines and the bad codes and the whole thing. And we were ready to go to jail for this. We were threatened with jail from our Democrat Attorney General, and 2 of us bucked that, and we voted for it. It didn't pass. 3 people vote because we're a 5-man board there. But that's the kind of thing that we're going to do. Now, again, we're just one person. The Senate is 30 people. We're just one person. And so whatever they do down there, and they're working hard at it, and again, as long as we have a Democrat governor, it's not going to happen. It's just not. So you get the successes and the wins you can, which is what they're doing with putting things on the ballot. I believe that it is the ID and stuff like that, and we take it as it comes, but it's a big problem. It's a big problem in Maricopa County. I know that for a fact. I spoke to the supervisor from Maricopa County when that election was going on. I wish I could read you that text message. They were so far gone, and they wouldn't take any responsibility. So we actually, in Mojave County, we delayed certifying our election, hoping beyond hope that Maricopa County would do the right thing and recount, stop it, admit their mistakes. None of them admitted their mistakes through it. And that was very troubling. And we were, again, for a second time, threatened with jail because of it. And there were people who wanted us not to certify. But again, I'm a supervisor, like Deuce was talking about. We have to deal with the information. I believed our certification was good. And that's what I have to do for the people. I can't go around saying that I believe our elections is good, but I don't want to certify the election. That wouldn't be good for anybody. There's so many unintended consequences if you don't certify the election. But I'm the only one here who has faced those issues.
Ashley?
And unfortunately, when we talk about election integrity, we don't have it. We don't have it anywhere. Look at our country. Look at the state of Arizona. Look at all of our counties. Even Mojave County had massive issues. And let's face it, that's the facts. The facts are that we had trouble in Mojave County just like everywhere else. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we even went to electronic ballot reading. We went to sending out ballots every couple of years. We didn't used to do that. That is fairly new in the sense of elections from maybe, the 70s, the 80s, I think, that we changed those over. But the fact is, we don't need to have electronic voting machines, and we don't have to have those things. And I feel like, we talk about the realism of having a Democratic governor and not being able to change those things, but I'm a hopeful. I believe in our country, and I believe in everything that our Constitution says to us, and I believe that we have to uphold that, even if we're not going to sit there and agree with everyone, because that's the problem with what we're facing in today's society, is that we roll over, we compromise, we continue to do these things. If we continue to do them, what's left of our country? Exactly what you see today. Thank you.
So first of all, we keep making it easier and easier for us to have fraud. If we start looking at the whole process, so we go back to paper ballots. Yeah, when we used to have paper ballots, there were still mess ups and so forth. But right now, how hard is it for someone to register to even vote? You don't even have to go in person anymore. You can do it online. They talked about AI and all that happening. If we don't bring bodies back to signatures, bodies back to registrating, we are going to have fraud. It's going to keep growing because we become a society of easy going. We want to drive through. We want to do all these easy ways to do everything. So we have created this mass mess that we're in. I think we need to get back not only to talking about the paper ballot, but we need to get back to actually walking in to register. Body, ID, register. We have to get back to those. I know it's hard for some of us, but that's what we need to get back to. Not only that, when we go to vote, we need to get back to body, hand, and ID, and then fill out your ballot. Mail-in ballots were meant for people that were too ill to go, and also military. We got to go back to that as well. So if we just take some of those steps and go back just a smaller steps, bring our bodies back into voting, that's going to make it a lot harder. But we make it easier and easier for us to have fraud because we make it easier because we become more and more lazy to get things done. And that's just society. I was watching a show a while back in the Old West, and I was watching how they were already trying to figure out how can we make things easier. Well, we're here. We have made things so easy that it's hard not to catch on the fraud because we're not even registering. I can go register at any time on the computer. They don't know that's me. So that's right there, the first mess up. So before we even talk about everything else, we need to change all that.
Can I rebut on something? Sure. The problem is mail ballots. We all know that. As soon as all that fraud and cheat goes on, actually the counting is the last. I say garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in, they're going to spit out, right? So do you know that Washington State, as soon as they put in all mail ballots, a Republican was never elected again? That is unbelievable. Florida doesn't have mail-in ballots except for what Kimberly was saying, like the old days, absentee, You have to give a good reason. You have to be in the military. They get their elections overnight. We know they're probably one of the first to announce the results of the elections, and they don't have the kind of problems we did. I mean, it's not rocket science. So we need leaders in federal, mostly in federal, because they make those decisions. Now we have this in the state, but again, there are laws that are up for debate, and that's what we were fighting for all this year.
Would you like 1 minute?
Sure. Look, we made Juneteenth a federal holiday. Why don't we make going to vote a holiday? Why don't people get the day off to go vote? I mean, the society that we live in and the government that we have isn't for the republic or democracy that you want or the republic that you need. They are for the government. And so if we look at mail-in ballots and all of these things, which I already touched on earlier, I'm just saying there's lots of ways that we can change the way or the avenue of the agenda small bit in order to make a difference. And I feel like, you know, who was in office when they changed it to mail-in ballots? Do we know that? So why don't we take a look and go back and see who the original problem setters were? Thank you.
Kimberly, would you like 1 more minute?
I'm glad they agree with me.
Wonderful. All right. The U.S. government is allowing non-U.S. citizens to vote in national elections. Although they are not allowed to vote in state or local positions, what can be done at a state level to end this? And what can we as the voters do to see this overturned? Ashley?
There's nothing you can do. You have a president that's in office, an illegitimate president at that, and now Kamala Harris is in office, and they're not going to change that. They're going to continue to go. So that's why when we make our elections and we sit there and we vote these bodies in that have been in there for 40, 50 years, we need to bring in new people that are ready to fight and have the energy to fight for the people and fight for the Constitution of America. I've heard it from many people, even, you know, in this room, the Constitution, we're so far away from the Constitution. Well, me personally, I still believe in the Constitution, and we need more people like that in office, and instead of rolling over. And unfortunately, it's up to the people to make that decision on who goes into the federal government. And so everybody needs to learn, and especially our children, right? We have children that are, they have no idea when voting is. They're not registered to vote. I had an individual come today, and they don't even have a driver's license. They're 24 years old, and they've never driven in their life. This is the society that we've created for our children, and we've enabled them to not be good citizens of society, and that needs to change. We need to go back to accountability to the kids. We need to go back to being good parents and raising our own children instead of allowing the government, remember, the government to raise them, and we need to work towards that. So how do we do that? It's a very, very complicated process. I could sit here all night and talk about it, but I think it's up to the people to make sure that we vote correctly. Thank you.
I missed the beginning of that, honey.
The U.S. government is allowing non-U.S. citizens to vote in national elections. Although they are not allowed to vote in state and local positions, what can be done at a state level to end this? And what can we, the voters, do to see this overturned?
Well, I agree right now because of the president that we have in office is not going to happen. But once we get President Trump back in office, that's going to change right away. How do we change it here? And I agree with Ashley a lot on that. We also need to constantly change we shouldn't have career politicians. I talk about it multiple times in multiple things. Career politicians are people that are just making steps to keep moving up. The government was never created for people to make a job out of it. We were supposed to go in, serve our community, and then step out and bring new people in. That's what the government was actually meant to do. So we need to get back to some of that thought process of bringing new people in, because it is true. What happens a lot of times is, unfortunately, we got lobbyists and different people that start paying for people to get put in place. Why? Because they know that person's going to be able to make choices for them. That's when a lot of it changed. When the lobbyists took over and the lobbyists became such a strong hold on our government is when a lot of this changed. If you look back far enough, that's where you'll start seeing where things changed. The money was pushing people to stay in as a career politician because they were able to put the money into them, push them up further so that they get into office so that they can do the things that they need. This is why we need new blood every so often, due to the fact that we need people that are going to go in there that's not being bought or paid for by other people that are going to push us to make choices. Right now, I'm going in with nobody owning me, so that's the proud moment I feel.
Okay. To answer the original question, the answer is no. There's nothing we can do until we have a new administration. And I keep hearing these, it's all going to change when Trump is elected. But if we don't elect people to help Trump, if we don't elect Republicans, it's all for naught, right? And I hear a lot about government and government's the problem and everything, but I'll go further. We have a moral and spiritual problem in this country. Ashley spoke about the children. They've taken God out of our lives, God out of the schools, God out of everything. There used to be, I used to say to people, there's always been bad parents, there's always been, problems, but society provided the safety net. And we have just taken that safety net. Anything goes, there's no shame, and now we have a generation, and we're shocked about it. I'm not shocked. Look at what they've learned. Look at what they've been taught. They've been taught to hate their country. So how do you expect people who've been taught to hate their country, they're the worst, we're imperialists, all this stuff, and then expect them to go to war, to fight for this country? I wouldn't. But that's the problem we have. So we can talk about government all we want, but until we get back to putting, and again, if we have enough people in government, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not. So we have to elect good people, people who know what they're doing, people who know how to work together to get things done. You can go in and you can quote the Constitution and do all these things, but it won't matter because you have to understand how the government works. I've been now a supervisor for 12 years. I have worked with the state legislature, I have worked with the federal legislature, that's why Paul Gosar endorses me and every state legislator endorses me, because we've worked together. So I understand it. Experience isn't just about the votes you make or being able to read a budget. It's about understanding the system, understanding the people, understanding the psychology, and making the relationships. In 12 years, I can honestly say I have made so many relationships because I produce. I have a record of success. We've gone up against unelected bureaucrats in Washington. I've gone up against the state and some of their unconstitutional laws that they've done. That's the type of person you need.
1 minute.
Sure, thank you. So all of these agencies, right, they didn't happen overnight. And my opponent here, or running mate, she mentions it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, no duh. Why are we in this position we are in today? It did not happen overnight. Thank you, because we still have the same individuals in office that we have had for 20 years, and we keep doing it and then expecting to see a different result. And does anybody know what that definition is? Can you raise your hand? Thank you, thank you. So remember, we have a duty to our legacies. And I have 5 kids. I'm doing this for them. That is the only thing I'm doing it for. I woke up one day and said, what the heck is happening to our country, and why are my kids learning these things, and I need to fight against it. And I woke up, I stood up, and I walked out that door, and that day I have not stopped fighting since, and I will continue to fight. Thank you.
I would like to add to that. I think a person that goes into office should be a strong leader. If you have strong leaders that know how to talk to people, know how to treat people with love and respect and kindness, and be able to listen to them and take it in, but also when it comes in at you, you need to be able to control yourself. You can't go off the handle, you can't be losing your temper. So you have to have those abilities inside yourself to be a strong leader, to walk along, and I've been a strong leader my whole life. I started off at 18 running retail stores. But talking about children, I've raised 3. I have 2 of my own, and I have a nephew that I raised. All 3 of them are working in our country, in our counties, protecting us. Why? Because they were raised by a mom that said, our country matters, we need to protect it at all costs, and you need to be respectful of this country. We fly our flag way before anybody else thought it was the cool thing to do. We've always been strong. I have a son that's a Black Hawk pilot in the National Guard Army. My nephew is a police officer at Lake Havasu. My daughter's a 911 dispatcher. These are people that I raised.
1 minute, Hildy, if you have anything.
Just that I'm not your running mate. I'm running against you. That's all.
Okay. How are state legislators preventing non-Arizona, not illegal aliens, non-Arizona residents from voting in our elections? And what will you do to help ensure this does not continue? I think Hildy, you're next.
Okay. We do have voter ID. We have voter ID in Mojave, we have voter ID here, and that's how we do it. And then we leave it, we have departments that's their job to make sure and check. Does it happen all the time that everything is correct? No. But I know for Mojave County, it's the only thing I could really talk about because that is my county and I'm in charge of that. We do a very, very good job on it. We have legislators who are working together and they're finding out the holes that are going on in our district and bringing them to the state. But again, you have to work together. And if we don't get, I talked about having Republicans for President Trump, but if we don't get Republicans in a more of a majority, right now we have a 1-seat majority in the House and the Senate. We have a real opportunity this year with the momentum from President Trump. But if we don't get that, we're going to be in the same position. So you have to understand what you can do. Yeah, we all go in, and we are all idealistic, and we all want to change things, but you really have to understand how to do it. Now, that might not be popular. It sounds better to say, hey, we got to do this, and we got to do that. But I've been around enough, and that's why you want people. You want experience. You want people who understand. Now, I don't know what the definition of a career politician is. I started in politics when I was about 52 years old. I had a whole career before it. But if you keep changing elected people, the unelected bureaucrats end up running the government. They'll just wait you out. They know you're going to be leaving. That's why term limits is always discussed, the pros and the cons. We have term limits. They're called elections. Thank you.
We talk about the IDs and we talk about all of these things. I know when I went in to vote, I don't know about you guys, but I went in to vote. And you know what they did? They slid my card into a machine. And you know what they did? They told me, you can't vote. And I said, why? I've been at the same location since I was 18 years old, the same designation since I was 18 years old. What's the problem? And they're like, well, you're not registered to be here. And I said, you might want to try that again, ma'am. But that's the point, right? We talk about being able to vote and all of these things and all of these procedures that are safe. They're not safe. They're designed to, I truly believe they're designed to overthrow what the people truly want. And what the people truly want is freedom. That's it. They want a government that is not going to hover over them, continually tax them to death, vote every single time a vote for taxes comes up and vote yes. I mean, we just can't live our lives like this as regular everyday people. So when we talk about the illegal immigrations coming in to vote, why aren't we able to not utilize machines to check to see if we're ideally ready to vote? Because every single time I've gone in to vote, that has been the exact same answer, and I have to go through the entire process. I contacted the registration office. It's a glitch, right? And that's what you get. It's a glitch. So until we remove those machines, I don't believe. Oh, and let's talk about our recorder's office. Let's go and talk about the voter rolls. Let's go talk about those things, being diligent in our job, because the voters are the ones who choose the recorder, right? We're choosing a recorder, and that recorder doesn't ever seem to really get the voter rolls straight. So why not put accountability to the recorder? She's elected. We elect her. And she needs to make sure that our votes count and they're counted legitimately with legitimate voters. Thank you.
Well, again, we just have to go back to, like I said, we have to be in person. And if there is a glitch, like she said, I mean, people can look at your ID. They're still looking at an ID, looking at your picture. When I went in, they looked at my picture, my ID. They asked my address for me to say it. And then they asked a couple more questions. So they were pretty clear on being very protective on who's voting. I did go vote, and it went through fine. Again, we have to get back to in-person and get rid of the mail-in ballots. We've already kind of discussed that. So if we get back to putting mail-in ballots for elderly that cannot get out to vote and military, and then back to everything in person, we would get back to in our place to where we need to be. Paper ballots, yes. I'd like to also comment, because she brought up something I said about a career politician. I have actually explained to her about what a career politician was. That was in Golden Valley. So a career politician, in my opinion, this is an opinion of mine, this is not like in some textbook anywhere, but opinion to me is a career politician gets in the position and they just stay in and keep moving up. They don't care what the people are asking for, they don't go out and talk to the people. A politician, which unfortunately we're all going to be a politician once we're elected and we're put in place, right? A politician still listens to the people. They're engaged in the people, they're talking to the people, they're listening to what the people want. They want to be a part of their decision. I am not taking on a job for me to grow and have a career. I'm taking on a job to fight for the people's voice, to hear what you guys want and take over and go in there and do what you need. When you guys are done and I get things done, then it's time for me to go and hand it to the next generation. That's what I believe. This is a career politician, is somebody that just wants to keep moving up and keep moving around. Yes, we have term limits, but those term limits, they just move around in circles anyway, so we don't see a lot of change in that. So we do need change, and we need change with leadership. And again, leadership, all three of the people that she brought up, which was Paul Gosar, Leo, and John Gillette, all were citizens and went right into their position. They didn't have local government before they went in. Paul Gosar was a dentist before he became a congressman. So you can have strong leadership and become a great leader. So,
1 minute.
Okay. First of all, Ashley lives in my district, and I wish you had come to me with your problem when it first happened, and I would promise you I would have gotten to the bottom of it and find out why that keeps happening to you. You know, one of my opponent here keeps talking about listening to the people, got to hear the people. What people? We are put in front of us, we're given problems to solve, and let's talk about water. Are we talking about La Paz, Cibola, Mojave, Bullhead City, Lake Havasu? Everybody has a different opinion. So I think it's really meaningless, and it's a platitude to say, you know, I'm going to listen to the people, because we have a differing, LD 30 is all of Mojave County, all of La Paz County, and Wickenburg. It is so diverse with different needs. So you have to understand it, you have to know how to talk to the people, but you're not going to agree with everybody. We are elected to make decisions. We get all the information, we do what we believe is the right thing to do, and a lot of times other people are going to disagree. That's the way it works in a democracy.
1 minute.
So we talk about, the topic really is illegal immigration and then voting, right? And let's go back to that for a moment and remember that if individuals would just look at a voter registration card and require it, that would ease up a lot of the trouble in conjunction with their ID. How many times have you been asked for your registration card? Raise your hand. Okay, I saw one hand raised. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the registration card. You have to go, you get registered, you get all your information, you get this registration card, and it essentially duplicates your identification card, and it shows exactly who you are and what designation you should be, and if you're allowed to vote or not, and where you live. We don't get asked for that. That could probably change a lot of things if we really looked at solutions and we wanted to find solutions, but I don't think the government wants to find solutions. Thank you.
Real quick, who the people are is every one of you that's sitting in this audience. I have been to every event that is put on place like this, but on top of it, I have driven double the miles on my truck in the last year. Why? Because I have been in every restaurant, in every city, in every area, and I've spent the night sometimes in Meadview just to be around everyday people. Those are the people I'm talking about. Everyday people that are dying to have someone just hear their voice. I see it, I felt it, I met so many, and I did go. Yes, I know how far. You should see the miles on my truck. Ask my poor husband. This poor man has been dragged through the mud with me. We have hit more places to talk to everyday people because I care. I'm not doing this for me, because if you think that what people, that blew my mind right there. I'm sorry. You are the people. You are my boss, nobody else. And so those are the people that I have met all over Wickenburg. I've been in the restaurants and the places there as well. So everywhere I go, I'm in the local places.
So we got very few questions for directly to anyone. Unfortunately, we only got 2 for Hildy. So since the career politician came up, I'm sure that that's why there were only questions for you.
That's fine.
But a number of people have stated that you're a rhino, a Republican in name only. Many are also claiming that during supervisor meetings, you were opposing free speech. Please respond to this.
Okay. First, the free speech. When I took office in 2012, I ran on that we were going to have a call to public. Up until then, it had been stopped for decades. The first thing we did at the first meeting is we instituted a call to public. And everybody wanted it in the back, and I said we're going to have it in the front. And over the years, it's gotten more and more heated because everyone's angry. Let's face it. We know it. People come in. We have people who come all the time, and they're angry. I let them speak. The only thing I did in 12 years was I told a gentleman who comes all the time, and he's running for county supervisor, he brings in signs for my opponent here and for himself. And we don't allow that in the county building. It is called electioneering. That is a very bad precedent. But our lawyer said, oh, let him. So I even did that. Didn't stop him. The other thing they're talking about is early this year, I echoed a resolution that the state did about Israel. I'm Jewish, and I've never once talked about my religion at the podium or anywhere during the thing. And every day, we do, I know where I live, all my friends, my family, my husband, everyone's Christian. I love it. Anytime we're going to pray to God, I'm there, right? But I had this opportunity, and the resolution that the state did was that we support Israel's right to defend herself against terrorism. That was the resolution. I thought it was benign. That's how naive I was. I thought, well, who's going to be against that? Well, there are people. I've learned very quickly that there are anti-Semitic people in our county. And I am not somebody who sees anti-Semitism everywhere. I don't talk about it. I don't talk about my religion. I did it once. Gentleman came up to the microphone, and he started insulting me, insulting my religion, all the old tropes of anti-Semitism that I really haven't heard in my life. I was told about it, so I got angry. I'm a human being. It was akin to if you have an African-American person sitting on a governing board and someone calls him the N-word. It was the same thing. So I said to him, you are my mortal enemy. And I said his name. I'm human. I was so shocked by it. So after we did it, I said, I'm not going to apologize, but then after thinking about it, because emotions were running high, I apologized for doing what I did from the podium as the chairman of the board. I was speaking for myself. Those were the only 2 times I have stopped people. I didn't even stop them. They still spoke. I just reacted. And we're human beings, right? I mean, we're all upset about things. And that's the only 2 times. I'm very proud of my record on the Board of Supervisors, and I think if you talk to most people in Mojave County, they'd agree.
Would you like 1 minute?
Absolutely. First of all, that's what I'm talking about. We can't even bring a sign of who we support into a government building, number 1. Number 2, that is inaccurate. We just had a vote at the Mojave County Board of Supervisors requesting to put that call to the public back to the back, okay? And the only person, and she was outvoted. So that is absolute truth. And also going forward into the other things, the fact of the matter is this is the reason why we have the church and state, you guys. There's a reason for that. And unfortunately, not everybody is going to agree with my opponent, and not everybody's going to agree with the other side. And that's the facts. So when we look at everyone and we talk about all of these things, about rhinos and all of these things, I would never vote to raise your taxes, unlike my counterpart or my opponent, who is not my running mate, by the way. And I just want that to be known. She has voted almost every single time to raise your taxes or add a new sales tax. So, I mean, we talk about these things as far as we want to get Republicans voted in. Well, let's be and get actual Republicans in that fight for the same freedoms that you fight for every single day of your life when you wake up. Because I know I do. I get up, I go to work, and I raise my kids just like any other citizen. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, the call to public in the back, I was asked to put it on the agenda. People come to me all the time. We're a business meeting, and these call to publics are getting longer and longer. I never wanted to stop it. A lot of governments put them in the back of the meeting. It's what's done. We talked about it, and after hearing everybody, I didn't even put it out to vote, so that was incorrect. As far as taxes, when I took office, the only thing that the Board of Supervisors has say over is the tax rate. When I took the office, our tax rate was $1.91 per hundred. Today, it's $1.76. What they're referring to is the truth in taxation number. So you know what that is, right? Truth in taxation. So if I'm going to say I'm not raising your taxes, we have to look at your values go up, and that raises your taxes. That's the assessor and formulas from the state that we have nothing to do with. So they come up with a number that we would have to, make that number a little different to honestly say to you, you're paying the same as you paid last year. I never say that. I say your tax rates are staying the same. So many times over the years, we have gone with the truth in taxation number when times are good. But look, we're going through inflation. You don't want to raise taxes, you don't want to do anything. We keep that one, it's a couple of pennies, and that's how we get through.
Can I get one second?
Yes, Kimberly.
So I'm just going to go real quick. This is, again, talking about leadership, having to be able to control yourself. I understand it's hard when people attack you. I was on a radio station a couple weeks ago in Lake Havasu called Speak Out. You can go back and listen to it. I was shocked because, yes, I'm a Christian. I'm a very strong Christian. My faith is what got me here today. My faith is what got me through this whole year because it's been a really hard year trying to build yourself up from the ground up, right? Well, on that radio station, somebody had said, the guy that is the interviewer said to me, he says, "Hey, Kim, there's a rumor going around. I'm sure you heard it." I'm like, "No, but I'm sure there's plenty." And he said, "Well," came right to me. He said, "Somebody said you're anti-Semitic." And I went, "What?" Like, that was probably the hardest thing. But what I did was I laughed first because it made no sense to me. But then I calmly talked about who I am as a person, why that doesn't make any sense. And then later during the break, he talked about Israel because I've been to Israel. I've been baptized in the Jordan River. I've been blessed and to be in part of the Israel population. So yes, you will get attacked, but you have to learn to control your response.
12 years on the Board of Supervisors, one time, I didn't say it angrily. All I said is, "You're my mortal enemy." And I meant it at the time. I did. I was not expecting that. I've never heard it. It was horribly insulting and scary with what we're going through in our country right now with anti-Semitism. I'm scared. It's scary times to be a Jew in this country. So I apologized online, and the gentleman didn't accept it, which is fine. He comes every week now, every Board of Supervisor meeting, basically says the same thing, and I sit there and I say thank you.
Yes. And I think that might be the problem with going on the internet, and which is why I have not gone on Facebook, even though my opponent has come out and said I've done things and I'm not accounting for them on the internet. Well, I don't believe in Facebook, and I'm not going to support something I don't believe in, because Meta, Facebook, all of these things, I'm completely against it, because that's what's ruining our country, firstly. Secondly, that is absolutely not the case, unfortunately. What happened was, and you can go back and you can check, or there's text messages or screenshots about the back and forth as far as what happened with this individual. And unfortunately, the individual felt hurt because he went to the call to the public because he had something to say, and he used his voice, his freedom to speak, to say what he had to say, and instead of being met with grace, he was met with, "You are my mortal enemy." And so I genuinely was upset about that myself. We talk about systemic racism and all of these systemic issues, and no offense, but that's one of the reasons, equality, why we're in the issues that we're in. So thank you.
A man who says the Holocaust didn't happen does not deserve my grace. I'm sorry.
So not at all to attack you, but just the second question that was only directed to you. On August 21st, 2023, at a Mojave County Board of Supervisors meeting, you stated, "I have never been more embarrassed to be a Republican." Would you please explain this and why you said it?
Yes, I'm really happy to. Our chairman of our Republican Party chose, for the first time pretty much ever, to bring some party issues to the Board of Supervisors for us to make a decision, allowing everybody spoke. I think it went on for 3 hours. Everybody was calling each other names. They were airing the dirty laundry. People, we are in a big election this year, and we are fighting with each other, and I was embarrassed. I can say it seems that everybody has a First Amendment right but elected officials. I meant it. I said it. And I would say it again, it was unbelievably embarrassing for the whole county to watch us fight with each other. We shouldn't be doing that. We have other people that we should be fighting, and they're not Republicans. We agree 90% of the time. The other things, we have to make peace with. But that's what happened, whether you believe it or not, that's what happened. And in the long run, I didn't vote with the head of the party. I voted not to put it, because it didn't belong there. I wish he had never done it. I wish he had never brought it to us. It didn't belong there.
And do you still feel that way?
About what?
Embarrassed to be a Republican?
Oh, God, no. Of course not. Of course I'm not embarrassed. I said I have never been so embarrassed for that time, right after 3 hours of people. They were like children. He called me a name. He pushed me. I mean, that's how small and petty it got. I was embarrassed that day, and I said it. But I'm a very hardworking Republican. I have come up through the Republican Party. I was the first vice chair of our party for under three chairmen, and I do that. I grew that party in Mojave County, and that's how I got elected. I came up through the Republican Party. Most of people nurture each other, and they help each other. For some reason, our Mojave County seems not to be able to do that, and to me, that's very sad.
1 minute.
Absolutely. So there's discord all over the nation, and anybody that doesn't think that is blind, because we have been through HE double hockey sticks in the last several years, and it's unfortunate. But what we're talking about as far as what Hildy's talking about is an incident that happened, and we had terrible leadership in our Republican Party. And she went against her own Republicans, and she got actual harassment injunctions against them. So and mind you, these are women, wives, volunteers that don't have jobs. They dedicate their time to the GOP party, and you know what she did? She got injunctions of harassment against them and wanted to remove them completely because they disagreed with her. And it's very true. We have all of the evidence, and that's what we were trying to do, was show, here's the evidence. Why would you remove elected PCs? Because first of all, it's not your job. And second of all, they're elected PCs. They did this to get their, their ability to volunteer for their party, and unfortunately it was leadership. Thank you.
I'm not in leadership. What she's talking about is not about me, it's somebody else. This was about bringing all of our problems into the Board of Supervisors. That's what we're talking about. We have issues. Obviously, we have issues.
Kimberly, do you have anything to
We
add?
honestly still have issues. I don't really get that involved in it. I was going to become a PC and got in, but I still saw the infighting going on, so I tried not to get too involved. My thought was, I'm running a campaign. I need to focus. I stayed in my lane. I need to focus on the campaign. I need to work on what the people want, not worry about what the infighting that's going on. I don't even know about the other situation they're talking about. But I'm still seeing it happening. But at the same time, I mean, I had people coming up to me, and the first thing I'd say, I'm running a campaign to win for state senate. I can't be involved in the drama. And I walked away. And that's where I am as your leader to keep doing. If drama's happening, you got to stay in your lane, you stay focused, and you keep working hard for what the people want. The people, because there's a small group of people that's in this PC and the GOP. There's a huge amount of people that's out there that nobody's even talking to, and that's who I've been talking to. So I'm actually talking to the people that actually aren't even involved in most of these groups. So.
I understand where the infighting comes from, but I was in my mid-20s when I started as a PC, and I thought it was important to do it for my country because I wanted to support the Republican Party. And I found out really quickly that it wasn't necessarily that the Republican Party was going to support me. And it's true, it's unfortunate. But that being said, I'm still a Republican, a true Republican, and I always will be because I have all those values. But the fact of being a PC is very sacred and important. They're the ones that get elections done. They're the ones that are boots on the ground, that do the calling, that do the the door knocking. They do all of the things for the Republican Party. And although there's infighting, they get their boots on the ground and they work their tails off. So whether they want to fight or not, I can't really say to that as far as how it's going to go here forward, but what I can say is I've spent thousands and thousands of hours as a PC and put in that many hours of volunteer time for my GOP office, and I think that it's very important to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, what she said about why it's important to have a really active Republican Party, and because we're so passionate, of course we're going to have these fights. It just got a little out of hand. I came up through the party. That's what I did. I was a Republican Women's Club president. I was a voting delegate for Trump in 2016, and you don't get that unless you have a lot of money or you've worked really hard in the party. I've worked really hard in the party. And that goes to experience. You really, I know that maybe there's some different theories about it, but I believe you really have to understand the principles before you become something so important as a state senator, because you're working with other Republicans, you understand the way it works. When I say experience matters, I'm talking about all of it.
Well, first I would like to say the strong Republican that I am, that I actually raised 3 Republicans, so I feel pretty proud of that. And that's hard to do in these days when there are 29 and 34. So that's an accomplishment of saying what we are in our family. But experience, yes, I understand. But if it was only about experience and bringing people to the top, most people wouldn't be elected because everybody starts somewhere. Again, Paul Gosar started as a dentist. He did not go through all the channels that you need to go through to become a Congress. A Congress is a little bit higher than a state Senate. I hate to tell her, but that is true because they're going bigger. So again, it's about leadership, about listening to people, about working with the people, and about working for the people. That's what a leader does. That's what we should be working. You know, once you get in, I'm a very strong, independent woman. Trust me, if I can go through all these counties and cities and places and get to know so many people and connect and make relationships with every single area that's in this place and my whole district, that means I have the ability to talk to people and get to know people. That's called relationships. You build relationships by being able to talk to people. Oh, sorry, I'm done.
Are we all allowed to?
30 seconds.
Okay, I just want to touch on the experience portion. And the experience is for a state senator. This race is for Arizona state senator. Just a reminder, no one has experience as an Arizona state senator that is up here on the podium. Thank you.
Yep.
Hildy?
No, it's okay.
Oh, great. Okay, on a lighter note. As a border state, we're all affected by the influx of illegals and drug cartel, and this will only increase before President Trump resumes office. What can you do on a state level to assure our safety in Arizona, and what will you do long-term to secure the border? What can the state do with those who are here illegally? So kind of a three-part question.
I will start then, since I didn't finish the last time, but thank you. So again, we got to go back to getting stronger in our state by forcing federal laws to make the border states have better control of their border. We need to make sure those laws are put in place. So when this ever happens again, we have a stronger ability. And yes, the people say, well, we have a governor that won't do anything. Well, we need to change that as well. We can start making, hopefully, different laws. And she's terming out, or not terming out, but she's resigning or whatever she's doing in 2 years. So hopefully at that point, because her term is done in 2 years. So, and she's made comments that she's not rerunning. So hopefully we can be smarter next time, get out the vote, make sure we get a Republican governor in, so that we can also make some of these changes that we need to make. But in the meantime, we need to go through the federal and start pushing for states to have better control of their borders. And that means any border state, like Arizona, California, Texas, and so forth. California, I don't know what the heck they would do. But anyways, so that's where we have to make sure. And then we need to have stronger on all drugs. I know fentanyl's a big talk right now. Fentanyl's a huge talk right now. It's coming across the border crazy. But you also have to be careful. If you also are going across the border and purchasing your antibiotics or any kind of medication, this was taught while I was a coordinator for the CASA program, and I was in a drug training. If you're going over there, you have to understand there's no regulation on the machines that they stamp all your drugs, right? So they're stamping all the fentanyl, boom, 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 pumping it out, pumping it out. Well, guess what? The next load that's coming is a batch of antibiotics. Guess what they're doing? They're not cleaning the machine. They're pumping it out. So you don't even understand how many actual people are dying from fentanyl that had no clue that they even took the fentanyl, because there's no regulations on these machines in Mexico. So be cautious if you are purchasing anything from Mexico that's a pill form because of that. But also we need to work on other drugs. For instance, marijuana. It became such an easy thought, like, oh, it's just marijuana. Do you know the marijuana that was smoked in the 60s and 70s and 80s was 3% THC? The marijuana today that's being processed is 93% THC. Do you know what that does to a person's brain? Especially multiple children, when I was in the CASA program, were being born exposed to marijuana. There's so much more than just fentanyl that we need to really be concerned about what's going on. Our county, Mojave County, before I left the position that I was in, our county per capita had the highest drug use in all of Arizona. So we need to make sure that we're all drugs. And trust me, when I was a coordinator, I got every child that was removed from a home, I got the report. I knew which children were being exposed to drugs and which ones weren't. The majority of it was marijuana and crack cocaine. There was a very smaller dose of the fentanyl that was going. So we have a whole huge thing that we need to talk about with drugs. Fentanyl is a scary thing. We need to be cautious, but we also have so much more we need to work on.
Ashley?
Thank you. Let me tell you, I get drug trafficking cases every single day with my job. Every single day. And most of the time it is illegal immigrants that are doing it. And it's unfortunate because I think that our officers are doing a great job. They're running themselves ragged, a lot of them. I know the specific ones I work with definitely are. And unfortunately, we have an epidemic, and we want to talk about other drugs and everything, but fentanyl, one touch to a small child or baby will kill them. Officers are now, they have to carry Narcan with them, and they have to carry gloves with them in order to search individuals of being afraid of actually dying because of this contact. You guys, this is a huge problem. If you look, I mean, these people are zombies when they're on it. They are having, they're urinating in front of McDonald's. They're sitting there taking their clothes off out in public. They're doing terrible things. And unfortunately, we don't have anything in place to really protect our communities from that, especially La Paz County. Look at La Paz County. You are I-10. You're right here, you guys. And we need to protect these freeways. We need these interstates and make sure that we have enough manpower to go and utilize that manpower to fight against it. I know, I'm working 20-hour days just on drug cases, and it's terrible. And I think that we need to make sure that when we go to the legislator, we put certain bills up and we take certain things away. And we talk about, and my opponent has mentioned about this thing where you go and you vote on it and it goes up, and you can't change